Hey, welcome to the Roundabout cast where Joe leads us out with a Cowboy Bebop theme song.
Huh, good one, Willer. We're not the Roundabout cast. We're actually the Breaking Bad podcast.
Ooh, see
Breaking
you've been
Outcast.
sitting on that one for a little bit, but actually, good one, Bradley. We're actually the Roundabout podcast.
Okay, you got me this
Oh, I
time.
fucking got you. Can't slip one past me. I'm your host Willer, who's very tired tonight.
I am co-assistant head grand poobah host Bradley.
I am a secondary schedule maker and content creator, Joe.
Yep. I like your titles. That needs to be your new gimmick, not this dumb podcast shit.
Why can't we do both?
Because you guys are bad at one and good at the other.
Hey.
Okay. Let's get into it. Joe, why don't you lead us off? You have something you want to say to the people.
Yeah, man. You're all wonderful people. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That's all I need to say.
All right,
Good to be
Bradley,
here.
what's our hypothetical for the week?
Uh,
No, stop. Wait, Joe.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about comedians in cars getting coffee because it's probably one of my favorite Netflix series that comes out every year. And it's a very comforting series. I say comforting. It's a very insightful series. I think it's well edited, well made, and it's a great glimpse into the life of different comedians and celebrities, and really gets you an idea of and it really humanizes them.
So,
Um,
is this all comedians? Like you said, celebrities. There is it always comedians in the
not
car?
not all of them are comedians. Sometimes they're just people that Jerry thinks is very funny, and they bring him onto the show. Like he's brought in producers or television supervisors to that he's worked with to just sit down and discuss what their lives are, what their thought processes are. The big thing that I really like about this show, actually, one of their special guests was Barack Obama when he was president.
Ooh,
damn.
that's a good get.
Yeah. But so the gimmick of this show is very simple. Jerry Seinfeld is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, comedian of all time in the history of comedy.
What's the deal with coffee and cars?
Yes. Um, but Jerry Seinfeld, so he's like a master of his craft. He knows everything about comedy, but he also knows everything about cars. Basically, he has a huge
Really?
car collection. Yes, and he just knows a lot of people with cars and just knows them like inside and out. So the big gimmick is that the show opens up with a car that he has personally chosen, and he uses that car as a representation of the comedian or special guest that he's taking out for coffee that day.
That's interesting, actually. I
Yeah,
had no idea there was that element to this show.
and he's really good at it. And if he brings back special guests, if he brings back guests, he'll get them a different car. And so this car is reflective of this side of their personality and what it means. And he goes into detail and he goes into the history of the car and how that relates to that comedian. And it's a really good way of just providing some sort of physical, it's a weird way because it's able to humanize this comedian or the special or the celebrity right off the bat, but he does it by comparing them to an inanimate object, which is very ironic, I think.
I feel like it speaks to, I guess, how much thought he's putting into the show, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And this show I think is a very quality show. It's got wonderful editing. It knows its pacing, it knows how long it needs to go, and it really does give you snippets of the conversation that they have. And a lot of it is just kind of driving shots and them talking in the car, but they do provide some good insights as to what it's like to be a comedian. And when they were if he talks to older comedians, they talk about when they were growing up and when they were first starting out and what that struggle was. And when he talks to newer comedians, he talks to John Mulaney or some of the new SNL cast, they talk about where they are, where they were previously, and what their kind of goals are and where they want to go from here, and what their process is and how they're feeling about where their career is going.
Joe, is Jerry Seinfeld a likable person? Because, I mean, aside from being a god of comedy with Seinfeld, I've seen clips of him just seeming like an old man yelling at clouds.
He can be in this show.
I feel
think
like if you called him an unlikable person to his face, he would not disagree with you. In fact, I think people have, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
But I don't know if that makes it any better.
I'm not sure it does, but this sounds cool.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like Jerry. One thing about Jerry Seinfeld though is that in this show he really knows how to turn his charisma on and be very charismatic, and he's a very good host, and he's very willing to let everyone talk, especially when it's someone that he's not really personally close with, like John Mulaney. I think is one of them for sure. That he more or less did an interview with him rather than like personally sit down and talk to him. But there are others where he's just having like a straight conversation with people. Like one of them, he brings on Kramer from Seinfeld, which is one of the best episodes because it's so funny. Just everything that happens because it plays out like a Seinfeld episode, like unintentionally. But they have a nice heart to heart, like talking about Kramer's like downfall and the one event that kind of like spiraled his career out of control, and they have a nice discussion about like what it means to be a celebrity and stuff. But I think I really like this show. Each section is really short. Episodes can vary between 12 minutes to 40 minutes, and sometimes there are two-part episodes.
Cool.
But I feel like one thing I got from this show for sure is that Jerry Seinfeld knows comedy inside and out. And like even if you haven't like watched his a lot of Seinfeld or any of his other stuff, like just listening to him, you can tell like how naturally funny he is and how he's able to just like go back and forth with these people constantly, regardless of like what their actual like comedic like angles are. He's always able to just bounce off of someone else across from him.
Joe, I got some important questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, just list off some of your favorite guests on the show.
The John Mulaney one, because I'm just a big fan of him. The Barack Obama one was also a cool one because he talks about like having like being in a higher position but still maintaining like being a person and how difficult that is. The Kramer one is great, not only because it's funny, because it's like you're seeing two old friends, like meeting up for the first time in a long time and discussing what their lives are. Eddie Murphy, which was in this recent one, was really good too. Like you like Eddie, you can tell like when he talks to him, you realize that Eddie Murphy, whenever he did his bits, was really just a character that he was playing. And when he talks to Jerry, you can tell like he can turn it off, and he's a lot more down to earth and just talking about his life. Joaquin Phoenix is also one of the guests in the recent ones. That was a really good one too.
How many episodes and seasons are there, if you know?
I think there are 6 seasons, and I believe they are 12 episodes each.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I use them just as like podcasts mainly. I just put them on to the side and listen to them.
I mean, they're just driving around, so that seems perfect.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's the kind of show where it's kind of equally fun to actively watch or have on in the background.
Bradley, you've watched this?
Yeah, I've seen most of season 1 kind of back when it was first coming out, just because I had been watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld, and I was like, what does Jerry do besides stand up nowadays? And I googled it, and I was like, oh my god, there's this show coming out. So it is very entertaining. I haven't really caught up with it, but
do you have any favorite episodes among the ones you watched?
Not particularly. But I would say, kind of like Joe, it really is. It's really good as a podcast, but it's also just good as a show.
Yeah.
All right. Final question. This one's for all the cookies. You've talked about the cars. You've talked about the comedians. Where does the coffee fit in, Joe?
They go and get coffee, but it's more or less just like a general idea of what they're doing. They do several other activities too every once in a while. Like might go get dinner, or not dinner, but like they might get like a brunch or something. I've seen them go to like a museum and walk around the museum. They talk about the museum and make jokes about the museum stuff. Or go through parks, or they'll go to like old comedy clubs they used to perform at and talk about when they performed there and what it was like to perform there. Like the one with Eddie Murphy, they talk about how Eddie Murphy and Jerry Seinfeld, when they first started, they were in the same ticket of comedians in like a specific club by just pure coincidence. They didn't even realize who each other were, but like literally Jerry went and then Eddie Murphy went.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little bummed out that the coffee is kind of a lie, but you know what? Everything else seems great.
Yeah. I really like the show. If you have Netflix and you're not watching it, I think you should give it a whirl.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, if it's just you put it on while you're working or while you're playing game. I play it whenever I'm doing like Civ or something. I'll put it on because I know like I'll just sit there for hours playing that game, and I can sit there listening to them for hours. So it's great.
Good deal.
Yeah, go watch it, nerds.
Yeah.
Once again, Joe threatening people to watch things. Maybe if I threaten people, Bradley would do all the things. If I just threaten him with violence, like Joe does.
Ew.
It's time for Take That, You Worm.
That's the name.
Everybody clap.
Woo! We have a studio audience. They just don't clap for us.
We can't even pay them to clap. All right, we got a lot of worm this time.
Yeah, you totally finished Arc 11, right?
Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, I'm kind of fucking tired of being in 11 just as like a place in life. I needed to move on.
Yeah, because it's
one of those personal things. I'm glad to hear it. And it was all like individually great. It was just a lot of worm. We're gonna start with 11.E. 11.E. Yeah, sure, that's how that's said.
Yeah, there you go.
Where the Chosen are training, and then they're interrupted by Shatterbird. We've had this character foreshadowed before, where they're like, "Hey, don't wear glasses," and we see why, because she can just explode all the glasses through sound waves, I think.
Yeah, and reading this chapter kind of makes you realize how much glass is around you all the time.
Yeah, I got that. I got that feeling as I was reading it, which just goes to show you how powerful this person can be.
Yeah. So 11.E, I mean, okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's usually people's least favorite of the Slaughterhouse 9 interludes.
I liked it better than a few of them, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah. I think what does it for most people is that a lot of elements of Worm live and die on your ability to sympathize with people that you think are total monsters. And there's very few people in the story that there's literally nothing I can find to sympathize with them. Like, even some terrible people, I'm like, oh, well, you know, it kind of sucks they had to go through that. Hook Wolf, I no, just fuck this guy.
See, I didn't get that this time. I liked his loyalty to his crew. Where he's like, I'm gonna join you, but because you killed my crewmate, as soon as I can, I'm going to kill you, and you're not gonna be able. I'm not gonna let you touch my other Nazi boys.
I guess he is very, very loyal to his Nazis.
And aside from that, this was like a good action chapter, which is a praise coming from me, where it wasn't a lot of like ground level stuff. This was like really big powers clashing. It didn't really drag that long. There was a lot of big plays, which is what I look for in my literature based combats.
There you go. And man, like, I think out of all the Slaughterhouse 9 chapters we've seen so far, this was the most action heavy, because a lot of these so far have just kind of been approaches and kind of laying down what's happening.
Yeah, this one was action heavy, and they did it really well. And like he had her pinned down. And it's interesting because like Hook Wolf is such a good counter to her. I mean, at least theoretically speaking, to where with his steel, it's really hard to just kill him with all her glass.
Yeah, because he pretty much becomes inorganic. She's not going to be able to cut him. And I think he even goes through the members of the Slaughterhouse 9 and like lists the one that he speculates would actually be able to kill him.
Yeah, and to boost that as well, Cricket could cancel out her power through some sonic manipulation shit. Which made me really like when she distracts her and kills her with a single shard of glass. Or she doesn't kill her. Because, like, I'm going to be real. No one really dies in Worm these days. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming really hard.
I speculate that it's coming.
Oh boy. Hey, I have a question for later. But that's for a later chapter.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean that not much to say. I just like this one. I liked Hookwolf's loyalty. Um, I like his resolve to kill Shatterbird when he could. Good action scenes. I gave this one like a solid 4 out of 5. So I guess I like it a lot more than most people.
Hey, there you go. That's a solid number.
Then we get to a straight banger though.
Oh
11F.
man,
This
11F.
this was
is,
really good.
I think just universally loved.
Good. I'm glad to be part of this cozy group that loves this chapter, because this is the chapter where you're doing it from, is it Dina or Dinah?
I believe it would be Dinah.
You're doing it from Dinah's point of view,
Yeah.
and just the way that she explains her multiple timelines, and just the way that you can explain how she views all her probabilities, and the way that they went ahead and explained that, it was just interesting to read about. It was just really interesting to be in her mind for a chapter, a character that is kind of like the motivation for our main character, but we barely get to see.
Yeah. Like, I think just these visualizations that it describes for the power are really interesting.
Yeah, it
And
was like she sees like a bunch of frames or like a bunch of little pictures that are like, it was completely bonkers. It I would really like to see that visualized. And then she sees probabilities through them, and just the way that she reacts as she's digging deeper and deeper. And Coil's like, "No, pet, keep going." And she's like, "I'm gonna die." But I mean, she's
Yeah.
not really gonna die, but like it just horribly pains her. This was brutal to read through.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because her power sets up for so much really fun dialogue in this chapter, where she'll be like reading out a probability, and he'll be like, "No, no, 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 stop! What if we did this?" And she's reading it out, and he's like, "Oh fuck, well that's not gonna work." And he's just like throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
And I really like seeing them quote unquote work together, where you kind of see how Coil can use her power to get to do as well as he does, because in their conversations there's points where he like says things that he shouldn't know because in another timeline he's already asked that question.
Yeah,
And it just very much increases the speed at which he can abuse her power.
yeah, the synergy that these two powers have is they're kind of perfect for each
S
other.
tier for sure. Speaking of Dina, I was just thinking that this is a good way to get Taylor involved in all these arcs, aside from also Bitch getting recruited. Like, if something's happening to Dinah, I already forgot which one we established.
Dinah.
If something happens to Dinah, like, Taylor's gonna be there. I'm interested to see how that goes. So we meet Crawler here, who is terrifying. He gets stronger as he regenerates permanently. So
Yeah.
he enjoys like getting in fights and maiming himself and getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and I enjoy it because like I wouldn't say this is a unique power. This I think particular power has actually been done in several things, but I think just as a character, I like what his power does for him because it's basically his mission in life to go around getting hurt by things so he can become as powerful as possible.
It's so disturbing. I think because of the weight this story has presented, like its powers and its relative realism. Like seeing a power like this really creeped me out for some reason.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I think we don't actually even see Crawler in this chapter, do we?
We he's outside like a vault area and he can't get through, and then he leaves and they just walk out and see his mayhem that he caused.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the timeline where she's like, "Oh, he's gonna be here in X minutes," and as you're slowly advancing to that in time, man, Worm has gotten really good at tension building. Good job,
Yeah.
Loudbow.
Yeah, this and the chapter with Jack are just probably the best tension we've seen in the story.
It's really hooking me, man. It's really good. We found out that he's here for Noelle, which, okay, I'm gonna need my Bradley encyclopedia here. Noelle is who the Travelers are trying to help.
Yeah, she's kind of like the last member of the Travelers, and I think this would be the first time we've like seen her. She's
Could you
been mentioned
explain
before.
what we even saw there? It was so confused. Like, What is she?
She was in the dark vault, and it's kind of intentionally kept a
Okay,
mystery for
okay.
now.
Yeah, it was like it described the smells and kind of like meaty feelings. I just picture her as a big blob, like the end of Inside, the video game, if you ever played that. But that's just what's in my mind right now, which is horrifying.
To me, the most interesting Noel centric part of the chapter is I think Coyle's like, okay, so what if we give him what he wants? What if we give him Noel? And she's like, oh, there's a over 80% chance we survive the next hour. And he's like, okay, that's cool. And then she's like a 5% chance we survive the next 5 hours. And he's
Right.
like, okay, well,
Okay.
fuck that.
Well, shit. Okay, so rethinking about that, that's really interesting because it means if she leaves that vault, it's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Man, oh, I want to know. Good mysteries.
Noel's so cool.
Which I also got reminded that Leviathan was looking for her while he was in town, which is a really understatement of that sentence, but yeah, it's implied that he was trying to find her, which is just what?
Yeah, and this is something I forgot until I had reread the story. In Coyle's interlude, they kind of noticed that the path Leviathan was taking was exclusively to where Noel was stashed.
Well, I think it back then it said like it's towards Coyle, but that's because Noel was stashed there.
Yeah, so this is just kind of
All right,
building on their
here's
theory.
my big dick's guessing time. You ready?
Let's do it.
Noel is an Endbringer being born or like forming. Boom, you heard it.
Boom.
You heard that 100%.
You heard it here first.
All of you who have finished the series, you heard that here first. Don't forget.
All right, well, I'll tack that up on the board.
Prediction sheet. So what else happened of note? They get into the room. Just aside from how horrific Dinah's power was, I was just in awe of how good of a chapter this was. Sundancer was pretty cool. She at least tried to be nice.
Yeah, she seems like the most sympathetic of the travelers towards Dinah. She was really trying to make a case for giving Dinah a break, and she was there to comfort her, which I think really makes us like her a lot more.
It's this chapter should make me feel more disgusted at Coyle, and in a way I am, but also it's just so cool how well he uses her. That's a terrible thing to say, but
dude,
as like a story writing perspective, I was like, man, Coyle's fucking rad as a villain.
He totally knows what he's doing.
Jesus.
But man, like the interactions between Coyle and Dinah in this chapter, like it really does, like he uses his power and her in such a cool way, but also like he is still just such a creep. And like one part that just really killed me is whenever he touches her and she kind of like accidentally recoils away from him,
Right.
and in that instant she already sees the probability of him eventually letting her go decrease, and like that's just so sad.
Yeah, and like she keeps looking into different alternate paths, and she's like, it just works out better when I don't. Like it just, for me, like I've done this before. It's just better if I comply with him. I found it weird because like given the situation, I almost feel like he didn't push her. Like I felt like if he was a mustache twirling villain, he could have pushed her so much more. But like near the end there, he was like downright reasonable because like that's the only way they could have lived. So I don't know. It painted like a complex scenario here to put them in, which I really liked.
But yeah, and then we kind of end the chapter with she sees, as of right now, there's a 31.6% chance she'll get to go home someday, which
man,
is a much higher number than I expected for how grim the story can be.
I mean, no one dies, so how grim is it really?
I mean, hey.
Which moves us into 11.g. Okay. At this point, I was like, okay, yeah, I finished all the interludes, and then I was like, holy shit, I have 2 more?
Yeah, 1 for each.
I was a little fed up at this point, but I was like, my head is kind of hurting right now, but I want to push through.
And these are some of the best chapters in the story up till now. So
it's been pretty good. I didn't really like 11.g that much. because I think I started off like confused with it. Or no, it was 11. I might have skipped one. Oh, that would be 11.f where I was a little confused at first. 11.g was just like I liked it because it had Regent in it, and it kind of touched on his family a little bit more.
Our boy.
And I liked all the mind games that they were playing as they were both trying to control the same guy at the end there. If I could get some assistance here, how does this girl's power works? So she listens to music and that lets her hear people's emotions through the music? Is that what's going on?
So, in a sense, she has ranged emotional sensing and manipulation, and she can sense people from much further away than she can manipulate them.
Right, I figured this is how they found everyone, basically. Like, how they effortlessly found everyone was because of her, I was guessing, because she's so good at, like, getting little inflections in people's personalities and emotional states.
Yeah, Bernscar mentions that if she ran away, they have someone who could find her, and I think Cherish is meant to be the that person.
I didn't mention earlier, but I think we also got a confirmation on what the Siberian's power was, where I think that they're saying that she's just immovable. I guess that kind of correlates to what we saw.
And we'll see more of all these powers in the future. But yeah, Hook Wolf, as of right now, I think specifically the wording is that she's an immovable object, invincible in a way that even Alexandria is not. And Alexandria is basically nothing
Superman.
can hurt her.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. Back to 11.g, like, just not that much.
I think one particularly interesting thing about this chapter is kind of like Bernscar's. It's showing that these members of the Nine do have different motivations from one another.
Right.
Like, she doesn't seriously want Alec to be on the team at all. She just did this because fuck him.
Right.
And also, you know, some members of the Nine, like Jack, clearly loves what he does. Crawler, I think it's implied that he's mostly with them just because he's more likely to get hurt when he's with them.
I couldn't even get the sense that Crawler could think because we never saw him. He felt like such a beast.
And then, like Cherish, she
does not like.
She like detailed this plan where she wants to like get them addicted to her.
Right, which was super interesting. She wants to take over through that. Which is, I really hope that backfires super hard later down the line. Would be great.
That just does not sound like a good idea to me.
I like the aspect of her power where she builds up, an addiction over time. Where, in a sense, she doesn't have a thing like Regent, where when Regent kind of downloads how you work, it's way easier for him to use his powers on you. She has to take a way slower route, like a more methodical, psychological route. And that's what she's going for here.
Yeah. And one thing whenever I first read this story, I was kind of like, oh, is that a thing where it turned out that Regent was immune to her power? And I was like, okay, well, is that a thing that you can be immune to her power? And then I realized it actually does kind of make sense for him because her power's not body control like his is. She just manipulates your emotions until
you do a thing.
You do a thing, and he's just so emotionally dead that he wouldn't be affected by his emotions enough to do what she wants him to do.
It's a fucking yikes.
But yeah, I think it's kind of really interesting. Mostly, I do think the most interesting thing about this chapter is how she differs from the other members of the Nine and her motivations and her nomination.
But let's wrap this up with 11.f.
Which, this is probably the most horror-heavy of the 8, I think.
You once said that there was a chapter that was like as bad as the Eclipse of Berserk. Was this it, or is that still coming?
It's still coming.
Okay.
But this is... yikes.
This had some fucked up shit. But I was super confused at the start for a couple of reasons. I think this is a character that I haven't really seen or paid attention to since, like, the first interlude. Like, when's the last time this character's really been relevant? The character being, what's her name, Amy?
Yeah, and it this is kind of another consequence of
My
you
slow
read
reading
you read
schedule.
arcs 1 through 8 so long ago. This has been a
Eons.
character kind of on the back burner.
Exactly. So, like, I don't. Not only did I not care for her, but it's been so long since. It was like, wait, what's her deal again? And the story is kind of assuming that you're a smart enough boy to pick it up and know why you're coming in. And I was like, I'm not a smart enough boy, Wild Bow. And then like also there's Mark and Marquise, and I was like, are they the same person? But like one is their hero name. I was just so confused. They're not the same person. Um, Another thing is when Bonesaw finally shows up, we find out that she's a tinkerer. Um, there's two hatchet faces there, and one of them blows up, and they're teleporting around. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That's Oni Lee's power, right? It took me a while to realize.
Yeah, and she
Jesus, I was
basically
so confused.
it's funny because back in Jack's chapter we see him carry
Right.
Oni Lee out of the bathtub. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is a treat for a teammate."
Ah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and at that point, I kind of assume like, "Oh, maybe it's the Siberian because that's the only other person I know, and she's kind of a monster." But then we see what actually happened to him. He got mashed together with this hatchet face.
And she can do so. She's a tinkerer of flesh, which is super interesting.
He is a flesh tinker,
I like that. Treating the human body as a machine is cool. It's tight.
and she is horrifying.
Yeah, that is a this character is pretty anime, where she's like the little lowly terrifying girl. Because she's also they said she's young, right? She's younger than Amy.
Yeah, she's. I think Bonesaw is absolutely a trope. She's the terrifying
Murder
little
girl.
girl.
Yeah. A little something interesting about this chapter. It gets to why Amy refuses to heal her dad after the Leviathan fight. That's really interesting, and it gets super interesting in the end of this chapter. But that's jumping ahead a little bit. They have this thing where everyone leaves the house, and then Bonesaw shows up. She's there for Amy, with her power of just kind of controlling people's biology, and the neat tinkering of Bonesaw. She could make even more terrifying beasts. Which, Jesus Christ, I was thinking about the mouse girl the other day, and like
Oh,
just
man.
what that would look like, and it's just not cool, man.
And it's like we get like a very short, like 1 paragraph background on what the mouse girl is, and she's like, "Oh yeah, she was a hero called Mouse Protector, and I matched her together with her arch nemesis, so they just get to spend the rest of their life with each other."
Jeez, man.
I'm like, "Fuck."
There's some of that darkness you were talking about. Um, and then Amy ends up killing one, which is like, ugh, man, they weren't even human at this point.
I'll say you could consider it a mercy at this point. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
anyone
for
wants to live
sure.
like that.
It's one thing I really liked is one how she names Pagoda. She's like, yeah, Pagoda. That's a great
Oh yeah,
name.
that's a good one.
Yeah, that she hugs it. When she does kill Pagoda, she feels like she's becoming closer to her dad, which earlier this chapter, she found out her dad was a villain, which was alluded way back when, with Tattletale, like, kind of blackmailing her with that information or, like, scaring her with it.
Yeah,
It's
and
another thing I forgot, but I remembered midway through the chapter.
yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily blame someone for not having that on the front of their mind because I think the last time it was really explored was in Arc 3.
And it was briefly. It was like a kind of a thing where it's like, oh, I guess that'll come back later. But
Yeah. The
so
most
much
important
happens.
the most important setups from back then are one, Tattletale's like, "Oh, what if I said who your dad was?" And Amy has never really wanted to know just because she's worried. She has like a very black and white sense of good and evil,
Hmm.
especially compared to a lot of characters in this story. And she's kind of convinced, like, oh, if her dad was bad and had a power that was similar to hers, she would feel that she has to be that way. But back then, Amy was told Tattletale, okay, well, even if I knew that, I think I'd be okay. But the other big setup from back then that's relevant to this chapter, and Tattletale's like, I know something else I could tell you that has to do with your family that would totally ruin your relationship with your sister. And Amy's like, oh my god, please don't say anything. We'll do anything
Oh,
you say."
damn. It was that thing.
Yeah, she's like, don't say anything. I will do anything you say. Just don't tell anybody.
I like one thing I really like about Bonesaw's dialogue is when she says, "We can fix or break anything that makes you not the perfect little sister." And it's just like, "Oh yeah, you can join us. We're gonna fix or break parts of you to make sure you can fit in. It's fine, just join us." And she just cannot register that's like, "No, I really don't want to be like you guys. I don't want to join you." And she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna think that way after we're done with you," which is just horrifying. But also,
Yeah.
that's really good.
And Bonesaw's really trying her hardest to like,
Ease her into it.
yeah, like first she tries to appeal to the hero side of her, like, oh well, what if we mashed a million people together and then killed an Endbringer? And Amy's like, no, and she's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to change the way you think. Let's try to get you past this whole not
Not
affecting
killing.
minds thing.
Yeah. She eventually gets her to do it. Uh, Flashlight Man comes out and kicks ass. Uh, which while that's happening, we get an explanation to how powers work. This was a little heavy. I wasn't sure what they were really getting to here. So like when you have a trigger moment, your brain latches onto something and focuses your power set around it, and then it makes like emotional barriers corresponding to that power. Is that the general idea here?
Yeah, and this is kind of the first. I think this is the most we've really gotten exposed to about this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think it would be crazy to claim that Bonesaw knows more about how powers actually work than anyone else we've seen
Considering
right
she
now.
can fuse people's powers, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah. Um, so I'm actually looking at the passage right now, and she's like, "Yeah, whatever your brain connects to when you do get your power, um, it kind of generalizes whatever that power set is. It strips away all these extra things it doesn't need to make the power work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is stuff that she says she's gleaned just from like the,
Tests.
the few seconds while people are having trigger events, which if there's any group that sees a lot of people having trigger events, it's probably the nine.
Yeah, makes sense. Still though, like what determines what your brain latches onto? That's the part where I was like, this is very abstract at the moment, but I'm sure it'll
Yeah.
become clear.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll find out.
Considering it's your favorite thing of this series, I'm sure we'll find out in detail. Um, the final thing of note is this heartbreaking scene at the end of the chapter where she's running away and her sister shows. What's her sister's name again? It's Glory Girl,
Victoria.
but yeah,
Glory
Victoria,
Girl.
right? She shows up. She's like, "Why are you leaving?" And then she touches her and just instinctively changes the way that she thinks through her biology manipulating BS. And she's disgusted with herself, and she's like, "Oh, you don't realize how much I just broke you. I really fucked you up right now. You don't understand. But please let me undo it." And of course she won't. And she's like, "Oh, now you're in love with me now, because I loved you this whole time. Because incest is cool now." And it's like, holy shit, that is
Yeah.
such an interesting. You know how you always talk about how you like stories that could only happen because of the powers of the people in the stories.
Yeah.
This is 100% one of the best examples of that. Where like, oh, now you have this weird romance that is only happening because she broke her rule about altering brains, which is something she did with her powers. And
Yeah. And it's so sad because this whole chapter she's been so adamant about not affecting minds, and we see now that this is the kind of thing she was afraid of. She'd never really tried to affect a mind before because I think if she ever realized that she could, then she'd be afraid of unconsciously doing something like this when she touches her sister. And now that Bonesaw pushed her past that barrier, it was that much easier for her to slip up and do it in this moment.
it was instantaneous. It was, oh my god. That's going to be very fun to read about. But
Yeah.
that's a story for another day.
And it's interesting because Waldo he's kind of compiled a lot of his early drafts of Worm when it follows different protagonists and stuff like that. And for a long time, the story was going to be Guts and Glory, and it was going to alternate between Amy and Victoria, these two stepsisters. And at one point this was going to be like the climax chapter, though it would have been in a
Wow.
much different form.
What the fuck? Okay, maybe I would have cared about Amy more if somehow she gets a whole story up to this point. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. He
That
said he
really
wasn't
shows how
entirely
much he
he said he
thinks.
wasn't entirely sure where they would go after this point, but he said this is where they were like building up to till
Well,
now.
I'm sure in the final Worm draft he has a good finale for this.
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure someone might know. Do you think Joe knows? Let me get a senzu bean. Just
Senzu
toss it his
bean.
way. Hey Joe, you alive?
I just finished my dinner.
Yeah, Joe, I'm casting Fortify on you. Fire Emblem spells.
But yeah, our eternal limbo in Arc 11 is now over.
Woo! I finally got another number in my current Worm read through.
There we go.
Oh, that's refreshing. And this is supposed to be the best one, or some might say.
I really enjoy it.
You only have 12 left.
No. I wish. I have 18 arcs left, which is a compilation of like a month's worth of reading for me.
Hey
That'll be
everybody,
fun.
that was Worm.
Hey everybody. I hope you enjoyed taking that. You can't do that every time, Joe. It's just gonna be weird.
Wah, wah, wah.
Hey, I watched a TV show called The Boys.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon Prime. It is the sequel to Worm.
Essentially.
It is a gritty hero story, but people actually die in this one. Ooh.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to be. It's not super long, is it?
It's 10 episodes, but each episode is like a solid hour, so it is 10 hours of viewing.
Okay.
They got a lot of content in there. I hear this is a lot tamer than the comics because the comics are like peak edgelord, so that's good. I only watched 3 episodes of this, so it's gonna be a bit of a quickie from me. The Boys is the anti-Bradley.
Okay.
It's
Let
like
me hear it.
if you take Bradley's love for Worm and you multiply it by -1, you get The Boys.
Okay.
Now, there's some stuff in here that you're really gonna like. There's some stuff in here that I really liked. There's some stuff in here that's gonna drive you insane. And Bradley, what drives you insane in this life? Just off the top of your head, there's some things that are like certified Bradley killers.
I don't want to offend our furry viewers out there.
No, not that one. There's no furries here. We can't lose that audience yet, Bradley, because Bradley's got
right.
some hot takes.
You're right.
Something that kills Bradley is when powers are used kind of inconsistently. He can't stand it.
Yeah, that I don't like when a rule is set up for a power that is later broken, I guess.
Bradley, tell me what you think about this. There's a dude who has diamond skin.
Okay.
It cannot be penetrated.
We'll see about that.
But says you stick a dynamite up his ass, right?
Right.
And you detonate it. What happens to this man?
The explosion shoots out his butt and he flies up in the air like a rocket.
Yes. Now logically that's what you would say. But what would you think if this man just blew up everywhere, but his skin somehow maintained the hardness after he's dead, but he still blew up into pieces?
I'd
Bradley
probably go take a nap.
Bradley, no, that's not what you would do. You would be posting on our Discord chat. You would be going ballistic.
You're right. I would.
Well, that's what happens in The Boys in like episode 1 or 2. And it's like so blatant that even I'm like, what? And it's like this show it's doing some really interesting things. It's very pessimistic though. Like all the superheroes are assholes. They're all like Justice League mashed with like a little bit of Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And they're all just the worst.
That's one thing I've heard is that there's like no real good in this world. Like I think I've heard one of the big like messages of the show is that power just inherently corrupts people,
No,
which
that
I don't necessarily think is true.
I don't think that's. I mean, you could also tell that story because that's counterculture to our big hero crave right now. You know, I feel
Yeah.
like that's an interesting story to tell. Um, but when your main character admits to enjoying killing people by episode 3, I think you rushed the point, and I think
Yeah.
you made a world where truly there's no one to really root for. And that's kind of what turned me off by the end of episode 3. Like the main character is like, man, I like killing, and it made me feel good, and I would do it again if I have to. It's like, oof, we're getting to this a bit early with the main character even,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's just not my cup of tea in that sense. Um, there's a character though called Homelander in it. Homelander's so fucking good. Jesus Christ, whoever the actor playing him is phenomenal. He is a Superman with a little bit of Captain America, who is just the biggest deranged psychopath.
Yo yo yo.
But like he's really fun at it. There's like this, the main character's girlfriend is killed in like the first episode. It's like one of the very first scenes. It's in the trailers as well. The Flash is the one who kills her, and like nothing happens, and then the main character goes on a vendetta against the Supes, and he's partnered up with this character that I can't stand called Billy Butcher, who's supposed to be really badass, but he just comes off as really cringy to me. I've tried multiple times to watch episode 4, but it starts off with a sex scene, and it's like there's nothing really inherently wrong with the sex scene, but it's this Billy Butcher character in the sex scene, and then I realize how little I care about him, and I'm like, you know what? I should go watch The Good Place, or like comedians getting coffee in cars.
Anything else?
Maybe I'll come back to it, because there is some really interesting stuff. There's a character called Starlight, I think. Starbright, Starlight.
Starbright.
She's like a really good hero. She's joining the crew, and she's like realizing how corrupt the system is, and like how it's all capitalism. It's actually a cool take on superheroes, considering our culture. But like just in the back of my mind, I know she's gonna be corrupted by the end of it, and like she's also gonna be trash probably, and it's like I don't know if I have patience for that. So Bradley, I'd say give the first 3 episodes a watch, and then
I guess
think
I'll go forth then.
you'll see if you like it as much as I do, or as much as I maybe don't. It's like a 2 or 3. Like it's not bad. I just also don't want to invest time in it right now. The last thing I watched was a girl face fucking a dude, and she blew his head out like a watermelon. She's just it was.
That's
that was
how I
insane.
want to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's way worse ways to go. But that's The Boys. In my Quentin Tarantino spree that is still going on super late because I've already watched. I've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood twice now, and I was like, well, you know what? I might as well also do a rewatch of all of them in my own time. Now that's already out. So I watched Inglorious Basterds recently. That is arguably one of the most perfect movies ever made. Joe, you've seen this, right?
I have. I've seen. This is the first Quentin Tarantino movie I saw.
This is a good one to start off with, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley, have you seen this?
I've never seen it all the way through, but I've seen enough to get all the memes.
It's not about the. You're like a bad JoJo fan. You didn't watch it properly. Every scene in this movie is a fucking banger, but unlike say Pulp Fiction, where I'm like every scene's a banger, but I would cut out a third of them to have a more refined film. This is a movie where every scene's a banger, and I would keep all of it, much like Once Upon a Time.
Well, damn.
And a lot like Once Upon a Time, Quentin Tarantino really plays with history in this in a really fun way, where the Nazis get fucking ganked at the end of the movie.
Yeah, the Jungler comes out.
The Jungler comes out, and he just took Baron.
Yeah.
He just massacres them. Hey, we've been playing League these days.
Yeah,
It's
we've been
a
playing
bad
League a
habit.
lot, people.
Like, our nights are actually eaten up by this terrible game, but hey, it's fun with friends. Oh man, where do I start with this movie? The first scene is a masterclass in tension building. Joe, you remember that scene, right, where he's interrogating the dairy farmer about the Jews that have been living around there.
Yeah, the very first scene, the best scene.
Bold, but it is it's top 3, that's for sure. I'd say it's top 2 even. That scene is fantastic. The way that they show the power dynamics in that scene with like the way the camera is getting closer and closer as their conversation is going, but also the props they pull out where at one point they start smoking and Colonel Hans Landa pulls out this gigantic cartoon-ass pipe.
I feel like that's like the equivalent of like flinging your dick out or something.
Yes, very much so. And he's drinking milk in the scene and like just this villain drinking something as pure and infantile as milk. Man, Landa is so freaking good.
Maybe not the best scene in the movie, but probably one of the most tense scenes.
Probably one of the best written scenes in cinema. Like it's every line is just building up that tension. I'd say my favorite scene of the movie is the one in the bar that Tyler was complaining about the other day. That scene is fucking S-class. The way that they build up with no dialogue to the bastards messing up the operation, but then also not messing it up. The iconic line, "At this range, I'm a real Frederick Zoller," which is the Nazi guy that Shoshana is into. Not into, he's into her. Like, just so many iconic things in that scene with the 3 glasses and then playing the guessing game. It's while the tension is building, it's just such a fun way to do that scene. Yeah. This movie is big into cinema where movies are literally used to kill the Third Reich.
Yeah.
This man Tarantino is he has his niches and he has his things that he likes and he really sticks to them.
I was watching a podcast about movies and they were talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and one of them mentioned like when you watch Quentin Tarantino movie and there's a movie on the screen or shown, like it happens in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it happens in this, but the movie they're watching has this really cool action set piece, or it's really interesting. You kind of want to see what's going on, but then it gets overly trumped by the end of the movie by something even better.
Right, like with Once Upon a Time, all the stuff with the bounty law, like there was some actual tension being built in those scenes, or the scene where Leo's acting and he kills it,
or like in when he's in the FBI squad, or in
the oh man. Joe, let's just do another Once Upon a Time podcast. Another 2 hours. Yeah. But with this movie, you have the film Nation's Pride. And Frederick Zoller is in it. And it's very interesting. And it's just his battle against 300 Allied soldiers. And he really feels like such a cool hero to the Nazis. And it's like, he's an upstanding guy. Aside from when he kind of gets fed up near at the end there. But he's just a nice guy who's a bit annoying, but he's got a good heart. And I like how he can't stand to watch himself on screen because like he has PTSD over it. Like he doesn't want to be glorified as this hero. He's very humble about it. Once again, up until he's like, Shoshana, why don't you let me in? Shoshana, let me smash, says Frederick. And I mean, she gives it to him there at the end in an iconic way. We haven't talked about the Bastards really very much, but the scene where they're introduced and their scene with the bear Jew is just, that's like poetry in cinema in like the most violent way.
Yeah.
There's a really poignant line in that scene where Aldo is like, man, I'm glad that you didn't cooperate with us because to be frank, watching the bear Jew kill you guys is the closest thing we get to movies around here. Yeah. Where Quentin Tarantino has a very specific view on violence in movies. He doesn't, to him, violence in movies is completely different from violence in real life, which is why it's so over-exaggerated as well. And I agree with him in that sense. But, like, yeah, he's kind of relating to that where, like, this violent act of a man with a bat destroying a Nazi soldier is, like, the closest thing to movies, which are inherently violent, that the Bastards get to see. The Bastards in general, they're all psychopaths. That's something you gotta understand when you're watching this. This is a platoon of angry Jewish men
These
and one German man.
like if you were to take them and put them in any kind of other setting that wasn't Nazi Paris or whatever, you would look at them and say
These
people,
are murderers and
these
crazy
are murderers
people.
and lunatics and whatever.
But they're so entertaining in the right setting and with the right dialogue.
But we all hate Nazis unless you are a Nazi.
Which at that point you should hate yourself. And that's really important because like their last mission is this huge ballsy do or die. We're gonna fucking kill them all if we can kind of mission, and it's very in character with the kind of psychopaths these guys scalp every Nazi they kill, just as like a fear ritual. It's just the craziest shit. But they're so fun. They're so likable still.
Carve swastikas in their foreheads.
Man, this just might be my masterpiece. This is probably. Is this his best movie? It's hard to say. Out of the ones I've talked about, it's definitely the best.
I think
with Once Upon a Time very closely behind for me.
I think I like Once Upon a Time more than this movie.
Yeah, I could.
I think because for me, I resonated more with like Clint and it's Clint and Cliff, correct?
It's Cliff and Rick and Cliff.
Yeah, like I resonated more with
yeah,
their,
for sure.
And like the struggles of like having a career and everything, and just I like that setting a lot more.
Yeah. The way I'd put it is that Inglorious Basterds has a better story, and it's really tightly told, and the pacing is fucking fire. Mm-hmm. But Once Upon a Time is a much more special movie, for reasons that, like, again, I don't want to outwardly spoil, but we talked about it a lot. What Quentin Tarantino did with that movie is kind of genius and very special.
I felt, and I think the other thing is too is like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's a little bit more on the believable side of like relative events, whereas the Bear Jew is not.
The Bear Juden is totally factually accurate. Your teachers didn't teach you because they were Nazis because they live in Texas.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing though that I love about it is when like going back to the head carving scheme. I love that because you can immediately tell that as soon as like kind of Lambda realizes his loss in that movie, he immediately regrets being a Nazi.
Yeah. Oh man, that is such a good finale to that movie as well.
Yeah.
You'll get shot for this. I'll get chewed out. I got chewed out before. It's like, Aldo is playing a different ball game than you are. You don't have any power here.
Yeah. It's like we're not Nazis. We don't shoot ourselves.
I really like the scene where Londa's interrogating the guys for their Italian, and he's just making fun of them out of their fucking faces. And Bridget von Hammersmark is just watching it happen, and she knows like she's pretty much caught. There's nothing she can do. That's another great character. Another great character is Shoshana, and the fact that this movie has like 2 revenge plots concurrently, and they don't even know that the other revenge plot is happening, and then it just all works out in this glorious climax is just really, really cinematic. Really good build up to that really fun finale. I think those are all the main points I wanted to touch. Out of the ones we reviewed, this is definitely top 2. Ask me in a different day, and it's like between this and Once Upon a Time, with Kill Bill next, then Jackie Brown, then Reservoir Dogs, then Pulp Fiction for me. All good movies.
I need to watch Django with you.
Right, I'm watching Django next, Joe. Will you please watch it with me?
If when we come up to Austin, if we have free time, maybe
we can use Cast.
Oh, we could use Cast.
Let's do it. Let's tomorrow. It's a date.
I don't know. I hate the chair I'm in on my computer. Awful.
Is Cast good yet?
Is what yet?
Is Cast good yet?
Yeah, tell us, Joe. What's the 411?
I haven't tried it since we tried it last. I mean, you gotta try it again at one point.
We gotta do anime night at some point, so we gotta figure this shit out. We gotta watch more Kill la Kill so we can talk about it in the podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, go watch Inglorious Basterds. It's fun. It's exciting. If you don't like blood, don't watch it. But hey,
If you don't like yeah, I just don't.
I feel like, to extend this conversation out, I feel like Inglorious Bastards is definitely like the movie everyone thinks of when they think Tarantino violence.
He was on well, dude, Django Unchained gets fucking crazy at the end. It's so fun.
But I think the thing is though, is that's at the end, whereas Inglorious Bastards, it's all the way through.
Yeah, it's more spread out, I guess.
Because like Once Upon a Time isn't violent until the very end either.
Yeah. At which point it might be like the most jarring, most violent ever, but like it's so condensed.
Yeah, but in a good way. But let's stop talking about Tarantino.
let's move on. Joe.
Yeah.
Me and you have been playing a little game.
It's a tiny game
called Saw.
Yeah.
I lost a leg. You lost an arm.
Mm-hmm. I gotta take off my tongue next.
Fun, but we've also been playing a second game.
Yeah.
That one's called Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah, we talked about it on our last podcast.
Right, which Joe doesn't get to speak this time because he spoke last time.
Yes.
That's not true. He gets to speak. But I've been playing it. I'm definitely past where Joe was at that time. Joe's beaten the game once, and I am nearing an ending, maybe?
I think you're at the halfway point of part 2 at this point.
Okay, I still got a bit to go then.
Yeah.
That's a good fucking game, Joe.
Yeah. It is.
They took Fire Emblem and they built up a really fun character management, time management game around it. And they also made some of their best characters that I've seen, where it's not just all waifu bait. There's some real stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Voila! They finally made a good Fire Emblem.
I think they were always good. I know I have friends that like Awakening a lot, but I think this game really is the peak of like.
This is so good, man.
Yeah, like I think the big draw for Fire Emblem was less of the tactical combat and more of your relationships with the people in developing it.
I will say the tactical combat is better here. It's still not near like a Final Fantasy Tactics or even a Disgaea or any of those tile-based tactical games. It's still kind of lacking compared to them. But there's the fact that your characters can die. That's where the real strategy comes. Because in those games, you can lose all your party members just fine. In this game, if your characters die, you really have to work around it. Now, granted, the game is fucking easy no matter what. I'm playing on hard classic. And you get 12 divine pulses, so it's like... I lost one character so far. And at this point, like, I don't think I'm going to lose another one, to be honest.
Yeah, in my final run through, I lost 3 characters in total.
Okay.
But I lost them less of because my personal mistakes, but more of like I really just didn't care and was just too lazy to go back in time and change everything.
God damn, you heard that, folks.
Yeah.
Joe's out here killing people.
Yeah, I accidentally committed genocide that way. Let's not talk about that, but hey.
Yeah, don't talk about that until I know what the fuck that even is, because we haven't talked about it. Joe did Black Eagles, but I did Blue Lions.
Yes.
I think looking at the rosters, I definitely got the best one. I am confident in saying that.
God, I love my house though. I
felt so bad. My house has some fucking drama in it, but it's real good. I think it has a good variety of characters. It doesn't have Ferdinand, which is a plus. It doesn't have Hilda, which is a plus.
I'm telling you though, Ferdinand, he's like best boy in that house, man. He's so good by the end of it. You really like he's a person that like when you talk to him, he's like the son of the prime minister of that country or whatever. So when you talk to him, he talks about like I'm never going to be emperor. I'm just shoehorned into this position, so I might as well try to be the best physically against her, kind of deal.
I guess, but when I killed him in my playthrough, he's like, "Oh, bury me with nobility." Oh. I was like, "Oh, you little pompous bitch." When I killed Lawrence, I felt bad.
Oh, I didn't care when I killed Lawrence. That was fun.
Lawrence is like a better Ferdinand to me, and they're both not great.
I don't think so.
Look, man, neither of them are Sylvain, or even Ash. And Ash isn't even that cool, but they don't even live up to Ash.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I grew real attached to Ferdinand by the end.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe if I play them.
Maybe.
Let's talk about how the Golden Deer is a filler story. They haven't showed up
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I'm interested to play them because maybe, just maybe, they're doing something crazy in the background.
So, talking to Claude, like I started a new campaign. I started a new game plus, and so talking to Claude already, it was just like very much like you talk to him, and he's already very much like very Joseph Joestar, like making schemes and backup plans and everything, and like really just like I'm not gonna fight you head on. I'm gonna just do some bush tactics.
I put 10 grenades on you, Edelgard.
Yes, basically, like he tries to find the backhanded way of getting what he wants, but there's still like in the playthrough I did, like just still like not relevant to the story. They're relevant in one mission to the story, but like that's about it.
What, the battle of the lion and the hawk, which doesn't even have their fucking name on it?
The battle of the eagle and lion.
Yeah.
But like it's just like that's so weird, and I think it's because like
I felt like they just had to pad it out to have like a yellow.
maybe, but like that just seems so strange to me that they feel they were so like distant from the rest of the plot.
Yeah. I don't know. They could have made the roster of each house bigger by just siphoning out the yellow ones.
But I think then like it's not as cool as having two choices of houses over three.
That's all that there is, though. It's like it's cool that there's three, but it doesn't matter that there's three, as far as we know.
I think it does post time skip. But it definitely matters for the route I ended up taking.
Okay, maybe it becomes relevant
because I took the unusual road.
Yeah, something genocide route.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a bad time, Joe. Dimitri is a very interesting character, and so are Felix and Dedu and Ingrid. They're all really, really strong. Annette is pretty cool as well. I like her. Mercedes is very nice.
Yeah.
I made sure to snatch up Petra as soon as I could. She's my dancer. She is great. Yeah. I'm going to say something negative, though, now, that I don't think I've shared with you very much. But I think this game gets hurt from the time skip.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel like the time skip only exists for Dimitri in my route. It's literally just there for him, and it's doing wonders for him. But everyone else, their relationships between one another and their personalities didn't change at all in 5 years of war.
I think you're right. I think that's just
it really put me off, to be honest, when it started hitting.
Yeah. I really don't want to tell you what happened to my playthrough because I want you to figure it out.
You really shouldn't. You should listen to my words and nod and smile.
But I literally can't talk about anything about my playthrough because it's just like...
Right, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, are you still in the monastery somehow?
We don't talk about that.
What the fuck? Anyways, I couldn't picture that, but man, I want to know more.
What's happening with yours? Like my route, I took it. I was like, this is so different than I think I was supposed to do. I don't know what's happening.
But like on these character levels, it got super even more bad when you get back and you do a support conversation, and I swear to God, they're talking like 5 years ago. Nothing changed.
Yeah, your conversations, I think personally, are time gated, but the conversations between them are not. Does that make sense?
I feel like what they should have done is they should have made every C rank available at the start, and then B through S are only available in the time skip. And what you do is you shorten the pre-time skip by 2 months. Because to be honest, the pre-time skip was a little too long. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree on that. But at the same time, you need a lot of time to get recruits.
Right. I mean, you could rebalance it. It's fine. You can get them easier. But I think it's important that you gate one of them off, and you don't get to see that one after time skip. You do not get to see it because it's actually worse to get to see them. It hurt me more to see them acting like they didn't grow at all.
Well, here's the thing. That is what happened. Like, there were some characters that I ended up gaining post time skip that I didn't get to C rank to in the monastery, so I didn't get to increase their support at all.
I don't know what happened to me then, because I'm having conversations that relate to stuff they were doing as students. And
I
then
still did those as well.
and then
And they're-
Sateth was like, Manuela, you're being a hoe because you're supposed to be watching over children. And I'm like, they're all 22 now, bro. Oh my god, it's honestly a big detriment to the storytelling of the game. But man, Dimitri's fucking flames. I'll say that much. They're doing. He's my one problem and worry with Dimitri is that they wouldn't try to address the fact that he's a fucking psychopath. But no, the whole route is like, hey, I mean, we can defeat, the Emperor, but what are we gonna do with this fucking bore of a man afterwards? And it's like, yeah, I'm glad you guys are addressing it. That's really good. But that's the negatives. Really good game.
I still think though, we'll have to have Fire Emblem Three Houses Part 3.
The third house. Except the fact that you've hinted at secrets that I don't believe.
Because I want to talk about I want to compare my ending to your ending because.
Okay. Are we on different timelines? Because, I don't know. I'd have to play yours.
I'm still in the five turn skip. I know for a fact there are missions I've sidestepped in your playthrough. Like, there's one coming up that you've referenced. I'm like, I didn't do that. I heard about it in my playthrough. I wasn't part of it.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Because,
yeah.
If you were part of it, that wouldn't make sense. Because, yeah. Man,
but,
Bradley should get this game and play the Golden House.
Well, I'm playing the Golden House now.
Oh, well, I guess he can't get the game then.
But I do want to talk about New Game Plus, if you don't mind.
I do want to know. I wanted to know, if I do New Game Plus, is the game going to be even easier? Is there a way, what's going on there?
I think it definitely New Game Plus in this game is less to be of a additional challenge and more of you've already played it once. Let's speed up your process so you can see the rest of the timelines, so you can get a better picture of what's happening.
Okay. Yeah.
Because right off the bat, so basically what happens, your renown is super important.
Yeah.
Basically, your statues carry over, your statue upgrades for your statue room,
Cool. So you get to raise your boys really fast.
Yes. That carries over. I think a portion of that money or renown you invested, it gets transferred into renown for you, and then you can purchase relationships with people. So if you have one that you really like Dorothea, if I wanted to up her relationship really quickly so I can recruit her faster, I could.
With renown?
With renown.
Oh, interesting.
So basically, once you've maxed out your statues, your renown is just there for New Game Plus content.
I don't think I'm gonna play this game until Lunatic is added. It's gotten to the point where it's a little bit monotonous at times. It's still tense because I don't want to lose anyone.
I think if you play this game, it's playing classic, but you unlock the ability to also have them always be in their post time skip wear.
Okay,
which is nice.
Dorothea is gonna stay in the hat. Yeah. Personally.
What else do you get? The big thing is right off the bat, you can immediately upgrade to professor level. So as soon as I loaded into the game,
ooh, that's good.
And was just I'm gonna be A rank. I was immediately A rank day one.
I see. That's cool.
You can also purchase. So when you do a class, you max out that class. The class has abilities you level up, and you just have them in the pool of abilities that you have from then out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What you can do is if you max out a class, you can then purchase all the abilities that you got unlocked for that class in your previous playthroughs.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can just be oh, I don't have to go down this route anymore. I can now instead just purchase all the abilities and then start doing anything else. You can also purchase skill ups for yourself as well. So you can just straight up buy level ups for your skills.
That's a good system. That makes sense.
So it's just a nice way to make things faster in your second playthrough, which I appreciate because it's definitely I feel if you're going to do a game, and it seems to me that they're really hunkering down on they want you to take this from every angle, which is good. And I think this hits a really nice balance right now in terms of the gameplay and just the story aspect of it. But I think it really, because when I was I just want to play another house to see what it's like. It helps out in that regard and doesn't feel like it's a
and the story I don't think the story is like crazy good or anything, but it has a really good way of segmenting stuff where you're like,
Yeah.
wow, what is happening with the other house? You get really invested in that.
The big thing to me was I got really invested with my characters and my students because they did a really good job of balancing out that social aspect and like the tea parties and talking to them with their questions when they come up, like really having to know your students, but then also crafting them to be the class you need them to be.
Joe, I'm so fucking bad at tea parties, man.
Yeah, man, tea parties are hard.
I'm so bad at the advice box too.
Yeah, the advice box I'm fine with.
Oh.
The thing about the tea parties is the very last question at the end of the tea parties, and you're just like,
nod or smile. No, I can only ever get 2.
Yeah.
I very rarely get 3, and then the 4th one.
If you get them to say, you get to look at them from all angles.
I know, I've done it, and I was like, oh god, they're doing it again. To wrap up my segment here, I'm gonna say all the people I stole from other houses. I took Dorothea and Lysandra, or whatever her name is.
Lysithea.
Lysithea. I took Petra. I took all the professors. I took Ignatz. I just happened to pick him up, and like I feel like no one recruited him ever, so that's a fun get.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it. I'm sure I'm missing someone.
Yeah.
I didn't get that many people. I got all the professors though.
In my playthrough, I literally only got Manuela, Hanneman, and Sylvain through recruitment.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I focused on it because I spent a lot of time in the monastery, so probably why I.
Yeah, I once I kind of got to the people. I think for me, it's like I just grew attached to the people I already had, and I was just like, I'm just gonna focus on these rather than try to collect everything.
I'm just worried for the game to become a real video game, and for some of them to die. I wanted to have spares, but I guess that's not necessary.
Yeah,
I'm not even doing auxiliaries anymore, like just to feel something.
Yeah, that is my one complaint. Is this game is very, very easy in comparison.
All right, that's all I got for Fire Emblem. You got anything, Joe?
I think if you like the oh god, I don't know how to describe it, but the non-RPG side of Persona, like the walking around,
the dating, they call it the dating sim or the school sim.
The school simulators of Persona, I think you should pick up this game even if you're not a friend of RTSs.
Yeah.
Because
and if you are, they're like the easy difficulty without deaths must be like a cakewalk, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's just I think it in itself of just being able to talk to the characters and see all the characters and just have them.
Very solid cast.
And it's very rewarding. Like you feel very rewarded when you're able to break through that social link.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still don't regret my decision. I want to play Black Eagles again because oh boy,
this game's easy 4.5 out of 5 so far. So much content as well, so you'll have fun.
But yeah, also fishing.
Bradley, it's time.
It's time to set sail for One Piece.
It is. Our recurring segment on the show.
You got One Piece.
You got One Piece.
Take that, you One Piece.
Take that, Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
You finished Drum Island. You read 1 volume then?
I certainly did. It was about 15 chapters, and man.
Let me bring up. Hold on. What volume was it?
Volume 16 through 17, and we're gonna be starting this week with chapter 140.
Okay.
Cool.
Last week we left off right when we introduced Tony Chopper, who, like I've said before, I had always seen him, but I didn't know what his deal was, and man, really like this character.
Really like his deal.
Really like him. So I guess we can just jump right into it.
Let's.
Yeah.
So in chapter 139, I think it's literally called Enter Tony Chopper. That was the last chapter we had discussed last week, and that's kind of our first look at him, and we get to explore him a lot more in chapter 140. And man, I just want to talk about how much characterization we get in just a few pages with him.
Ooh. Lay it on me, Bradley.
Like right at the end of like the very last page of chapter 139, we see the giant Tony Chopper just totally lay out Luffy and Sanji, And then immediately after that, at the beginning of 140, he's being like very meek and peeking around doors. And then he like runs off. And then Nami compliments him, and he's like, "Oh, I don't like getting complimented,"
He
but
does
he
this dumb
clearly
little
loves being
dance.
complimented.
Yeah.
Which is really it's really fun because he does that multiple times, and it just makes you love him. It's just a fun little quirk of his, and I don't know, all that is within like 2 or 3 pages, and like you just get so much personality out of him for how little you know, and man, it's a lot of fun. So we're kind of moving forward, and Nami is asking about Tony Chopper, like, okay, what's his deal? What is this guy? She even asks him right off the bat to join their crew, and
This
he's
was
clearly
interesting because Nami asked first. Yeah.
yeah, and he's clearly interested in them. He's like, "Oh, you guys are pirates, huh?" And we're gonna learn why he's so interested in pirates.
Yes, we are.
And the old hag doctor is like, man, that he has a wound that not even a doctor can heal. And we begin moving into this gigantic flashback arc, and what a flashback arc it is. Right before we do that, though, King Wapple and his crew show up to the castle, and what I really like is right before this like very long flashback starts, Luffy is winding up a Gum Gum bullet right in front of Wapple's face. And this is a lot of fun because he finishes this attack after the flashback ends. And I think the reason it works so well is that this flashback gives you everything you need to just totally hate Wapple as a person.
And you immediately get retribution. Like, man, I wish someone would punch Wapple. And then you remember, oh, someone is right now.
Yeah, that was just, on Oda's part, that was just an amazing way to set up and conclude this flashback. It was a very good
It's like a
sandwich.
very long punchline to just a quick joke.
I'm looking at the panel right now, and so like in this panel, I like pointing out the jokes. Wapple's about to get punched, his eyes are bulging out, but if you notice his little cape with the hippo in it, the eyes are also bulging out and looking at Luffy's face.
It's pretty good.
So we move into Chopper's backstory, and One Piece has had its fair share of sad backstories, and man, this one really got me.
This one's so good.
I want to say one thing that is really impressive about One Piece is that, going into it, I never expected these like really, really dark and sad backstories that it has.
Good writing, like legit.
It's really good, and the reason it impresses me is that One Piece is a very cartoony and goofy manga, and I feel like it would be really easy for very dark and sad moments to feel out of place. Like, oh, I don't really know if that goes well, but it never feels out of place in One Piece. I think Oda knows when to make someone laugh and when to make someone cry, and he doesn't. It's not jarring when he swaps between the two, and I think that's kind of masterful.
It helps that he set the tone early, right? Like you look at stuff like Boogie, where you have this sad story of like Chow Chow, but then you also have all these dumb hijinks with Boogie. But then also Boogie is blowing up villages while he's doing it. He's always been really good at marrying the dark with the funny.
Well, that also happens chapter 1 because it's all about like Luffy being a kid, he wants to be a pirate, and he's causing trouble, and it kind of like crescendos with Shanks having to sacrifice his arm to save Luffy, and you're just like, oh my god, like this person is literally like basically almost gave his life away to save a kid that screwed them basically.
It also helps that like everything's so weighty in One Piece, where like hits are heavy and blood is spilled and people are suffering, and like when you have to be a badass, you have to be the biggest badass there is, because that's the only way you make an impression. Like there's just this tone to One Piece that it's really hard to put your finger on, but it's just there.
Yeah. And so that's we kind of kick off this flashback, and it's kind of a parallel flashback. We're swapping back and forth between Dalton and Chopper. I think the much bigger focus is on Chopper, but you can't ignore Dalton's whole arc, where
Dalton's great.
he really goes from being one of Wobble's right hand men, and he just realizes that this kingdom they've made is not sustainable, and a young Vivi just really left an impression on him, and
Mm-hmm.
you see how far he's come, and I think he's a really I just love this man.
With very little screen time and dialogue, they make Dalton very respectable and likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also, man, that flashback with Vivi, it just leaves no doubt in your mind that she is the one who should be ruling Alabasta. Like she is just such a good ruler. Oh my
she
god.
cares for her people unconditionally. She's very
Yeah.
nice.
Even at such a young age, she was very wise.
Yeah.
So aside from Dalton, man, we get the whole scoop on Chopper, and right off the bat, he had a raw deal in life. He just never fit in, even before the human fruit.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever invited him to any reindeer games.
Fucking Blitzen was such an asshole.
I know, and you just really feel for this guy because the reindeer didn't want him, and then he's like,
humans
oh
think
well, I
he's
have
a
the
monster.
human fruit, and the humans didn't want him. No one really wanted to be a part of this man's life, and he spent a long time by himself, and man, he eventually makes his first friend with the quack doctor.
Man, Hero Look is so fucking good. There's this panel here where he's naked in the snow just to that's such a weird thing. Like, why are you even doing this? You're just such a weirdo. But like, it's such a raw show of emotion and camaraderie, and like, I am exposing myself to you to show you I would never shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he and the old hag, who I can't remember her name,
Carrera.
yeah, they both just kind of exemplify this idea of like what a doctor should be, kind of like how Luffy idealizes what a pirate should be in this world, where
Mhm.
they clearly have very different personalities, but they both subscribe to this philosophy where you cannot leave someone behind who needs a doctor's help.
And I think something else that I think Oda does really good is that he gets that personification of like this is what that person should be, but he doesn't not dehumanizes, but doesn't like make them into godly idols. Like Hireluk and Guerra are great doctors.
Hireluk shoots a woman because she's running away, during the while he's performing on this child. He's a fucking nut.
And they take monies and they scam people out of it, like because like they need money to survive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, well, they are also doing the right thing compared to.
They're rough and tough and bad role models, but with golden hearts. Like which makes them great role models.
Yeah, they don't have to be perfect people. But they have the traits that we really needed Chopper to be exposed to. And
Chopper needed to see.
Yeah, and man, a wounded Chopper makes his first friend, and seeing their kind of friendship develop over the course of a year through these panels is just really sweet. You can see how they grow on each other, and Hireluk, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
He eventually, the time comes. He's known this whole time that he would have to say goodbye to Chopper one day. And when the time comes, it's a very hard goodbye, but he's adamant that no, like there's a world out there for Chopper. He needs to experience this, and this is Chopper's first friend, and it's hard for him to let go. And I guess I shouldn't skip over.
There's so many small details. Like I love when they're running away from people and like they're just both being little scramps running away together, and like you have a young Chopper just also running away with him. You have him feeding him the bread. You got when he shoots Chopper or he shoots at Chopper, something he promised never to do.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's also extremely worth mentioning. Hireluk is the one who exposed Chopper to the idea of pirates, and I think kind of like Luffy's childhood, he got this very noble picture of what a pirate should be, which is exactly what I think he needed. And
Hireluk also seems to have like a distorted view or like a not traditional view where like he doesn't even view the pirate as or the flag as like, oh man, pirates are cool. He sees the Jolly Roger as like, this is a flag that people put up when they're defying the odds and like they're standing up against everything that's impossible, like a flag of freedom.
Yeah, and man, it's just I think it was so good for Chopper because it just gave him this drive, something to strive for in life. Like I think Here Look really instilled it in him that nothing is impossible, and seeing that symbol of the Jolly Roger is what reminds him of that. But man, it also sets up for this tragedy where after Here Look splits ways with Chopper, and Chopper is clearly still sticking around, Chopper learns that he's sick and he's gonna have to save Here Look's life, and he sees a skull and crossbones next to this mushroom in one of these medicine books, and to him that's the symbol of hope. It's the symbol of nothing is impossible, and Here Look always said that no disease is incurable, and I'm hoisting this skull and crossbones against all diseases. And so Chopper sees that and he's like, this is hope, this is what we need, this will save him,
man.
And it was poison, and it's so tragic.
And like there's so many fuck, like just the artwork throughout this flashback is so good where you feel so bad for Chopper, especially when he's going to get the mushroom you just talked about, and he runs into the reindeers that he grew up with, and he bravely goes through as they beat the shit out of him, but he's still brave. He keeps going.
Oh yeah.
He finally gets to the cliff, and these motherfuckers creep up behind him, and the way he shows up is just absolutely heartbreaking. He looks destroyed.
Oh man.
Oh man. Here Look takes him into his arms like with such emotion just from a drawing. Man, that's too good.
And I forgot to mention, I'm flipping through it right now, and one of the most heartbreaking panels in probably any manga that I've seen is after Here Look initially kicks Chopper out, and Chopper bangs his head against the door and hurts himself, so that the doctor will take him back in. And just seeing cute little Chopper hurt himself, like that, man, that really got me, man.
He thinks it's the only way that like and it also, it's like it's kind of fucked up because like our relationship is like you'll take care of me, right? It's like it's so much more complex than that, Chopper.
Man, like this is a really sad backstory, but it just makes you love and root for him so much.
It really does.
And so we get a really nice conclusion to Here Look where he risks his life going to the castle when he hears about the doctors being sick, which it was actually a trap for him. But man, like what really just finalized him as being just such a good guy for me was when he learns that the doctors being sick was a trap. His reaction isn't, oh no, I got trapped, they're gonna kill me. He's relieved because he's like, nobody's sick, the nation's gonna be okay. And I was like, man, what a good man.
What a good man. His final lines are probably top 5 in all of One Piece for me. Like top 5 quotes in all of One Piece. It's his when is a man truly dead speech. And his conclusion is, a man isn't dead when he's killed by a bullet or an explosion or a deadly mushroom. A man is dead when he's forgotten. And because of that, Here Look still lives on today.
Yeah, and just the impact that had not only on us, the reader, but also on Dalton, because I think Vivi sowed Dalton's doubts in Wapple, but hearing Here Look say that face to face, I think is the moment that Dalton realized, I have to do something. Like I can't serve this guy anymore. Yeah. And so pretty soon after that, we come out of this flashback and we get the satisfying conclusion of that Gum Gun Bullet.
Oh man, look at the fucking way this impact is drawn.
Holy shit, what a punch.
The way that Oda draws like Luffy putting his whole body into it, and then he kind of like does like a sketchy artwork with his body and hair.
Oh, man, what a punch.
What a punch.
So yeah, that was I think pretty much half that volume was a flashback, but man, One Piece has amazing flashbacks.
When One Piece goes into like a 20 chapter flashback, you know you're getting into some good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that kicks off the big action. And we have some cool fights here. And man, I talked last time about how the Munch Munch fruit is cool. Like like we already saw it do some really cool things, like cooler than I thought it would be able to do. And every single chapter has it doing
New
just
stuff.
more stuff, and it is so cool. The Munch Munch factory, like Wapple is like mega Kirby. Like,
Yeah. He's like
What-
Kirby, but way weaker.
man, like whatever he eats, he can like morph his body according to it. I think it is so cool.
There's a little note here. This is the first instance of team up attacks, I think, with the Straw Hats, where they do the air assaults with Sanji kicking Luffy into Wapple.
Yeah, and that was such a cool move.
One Piece has some really fun team attacks. They're always like highlights of the action
Yeah,
for me.
and even the bad guys get team attacks too, where
Yeah,
one
go
of the
on.
minions is like throwing his sticky hair at them, which is flammable, and then Chess shoots fire arrows to try to catch them on fire.
So I have a bad confession to make.
Oh no.
This whole time, for years, I'm talking like decades since I've been reading One Piece, right? I thought Chess Marimo was properly fused by the Munch Munch fruit.
Oh no.
And upon a reread recently, and with Joe rereading, it came to light that they were just standing on top of each other.
Yeah, which is honestly better because it's just funny.
I was so betrayed.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, fuck.
But man, yeah, we get quite a few chapters of just straight up action. Kind of at the top and the bottom of this mountain where everyone's kind of reeling from the avalanche and getting ready to
Climb.
head up the mountain. And man, just so much going on between Luffy and Wapple. What a fight. And also Chopper and Wapple.
I really like Usopp trying to carry Dalton. A very brave moment that is then gagged because he can't physically carry
Yeah,
Dalton.
but I still give Usopp credit.
Good
'cause
job, Usopp.
His heart was in the right place. So I'm kind of flipping through this, and we get a really good kind of scene in the middle of the fight where Wapple shoots down the Jolly Roger flag at the top of the castle. And obviously this is the worst thing for Chopper because that's his memorial to his first and best friend. And
Father,
Luffy, yeah, Luffy just immediately puts it back up, and he's like, no, like you can't disgrace this symbol because just like Chopper, the Jolly Roger means so much to Luffy. He puts it back up there, and Wapple tries to shoot it back down, and Luffy just tanks the hit. He's like, no, this is unbreakable. And he's not just talking about the flag itself, the physical flag, but the spirit of what it stands for.
And especially some punk like Wapple. Like, how dare he? Is what goes through Luffy's head here.
Yeah, and then Wapple says, like, oh, that flag means nothing to me. And, man, that's not something you want to say to Luffy. Like, he says, I'm going to clobber those guys. It's clobbering time.
That's what he says, just like Joe.
And, man, Luffy defending the Jolly Roger like that is really what Chopper needed to see.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Chopper really kind of after this whole fight is over, Chopper kind of resists joining the Straw Hats at first, but I think at that moment, it was kind of cemented in his mind that these are the pirates that I belong with.
I agree. Like, the matter was settled as soon as he saw Luffy holding that flag.
Yeah. So after that, we moved back into some just like nonstop breakneck action all around and inside the castle. With some really good moments now and then. So we kind of reached this moment where it's like Chopper's real moment to shine in the battle when he's showing off all his different transformations, which Luffy is like, this is the coolest shit ever.
Mm-hmm.
And all these forms look really cool too.
Rumble Ball.
I like when Luffy's like, are you going to shoot a beam?
Yeah, and he's like, no, which would have been cool, but I also like the Rumble Ball. And we find out that typically these types of devil fruits give you like 3 different forms. But through Chopper's medicinal study, he has found that he can make a Rumble Ball, which lets him transform even more. which is kind of cool. We get some extra forms, and they're all awesome looking.
Yeah, and I don't think you get to see them all. I think notably we saw arm point, jump point, and guard point.
Yeah.
So I think that leaves one more.
Antler point's the best one, but that's later.
We'll see. And then we get to, after kind of showcasing all these transformations, Wapple runs inside the castle, and I just really laughed at this page where he sees Nami, and he's like, "Oh, are you one of the pirates?" And she's like, "Oh no, I'm just a navigator passing through. Bye bye." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Wait a minute." He's lying.
You do the page flip, and he's like chasing over her.
Yeah. And man, he does even more cool stuff where he's like, "Oh, I'm too heavy," and then he eats himself, and he transforms, and it looks really cool.
Hot Wapple.
So let's see. I'm kind of flipping through pages by page. Oh man. So here's like the shining moment of this arc for me. So there's kind of like the last like big, maybe not the last big confrontation between Luffy and Wapple, but one of the last big confrontations. Wapple's like, "How dare you defy me? You can't mock me. I'm the king, blah, 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 blah." And Luffy says, "I don't care if you're a king or not." And then we cut away. He says, "I don't care if you're a king or not." And then we cut away outside where Chopper's talking to Old Lady Doctor. And he's like, "Doctor, like, he called me his friend." And then it cuts back to Luffy, and he says, "Because I'm a pirate." And I like this because Luffy saying "because I'm a pirate" punctuates two different conversations at once.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a king or not, because I'm a pirate. But there's also, in a totally different location, Chopper saying Luffy called me his friend, and Luffy says because I'm a pirate.
Right.
And Oda's just being Oda's being so efficient and just masterful here. Like, that is such a good way to lay this out.
He is the master of just making a manga enjoyable to read.
Yeah, despite the fact that we get this moment with Chopper in the middle of Luffy's sentence, it doesn't break the stride, and it just punctuates both of these sentences. And holy shit, I think that was the thing I was like the most impressed with during my reading this week. I just loved it so much. Like, I think we said it before, there might be other stories that there might be other manga stories that could be more entertaining, or there might be other stories with maybe better art, though I really love One Piece's art. But I think Oda is the best at making a manga.
The whole
as
package.
Far as like laying it out, pacing, like structure, flow, everything like that. I think he is the master of the craft.
He makes it, as someone who's in living hell because I'm caught up, he makes it like enjoyable and an exciting experience when the next one comes out.
I think
every chapter doesn't seem wasted when it comes out.
Yeah, I think he's the best at specifically creating manga. He is just, God, what a guy.
Man, and like, I've gone on record to say that like One Piece is one of the most layered, best stories of all time, and we'll see how you feel when you get there. But like it goes places.
Yeah.
Another note is that there is no One Piece arc without someone trying to commit suicide, because here we have Dalton with 70 sticks of dynamite.
Yeah, he's gonna suicide bomb this place.
Classic One Piece.
Fortunately, I don't think it comes to that. We get a few more chapters of just kind of straight up action. Of course, One Piece always kind of has some good character moments interspersed in there. But just kind of flipping through it, we get the really satisfying conclusion to the fight. Like,
well, there's one like panel on here that I think really is poignant, that like it makes Dalton just be a better character. Is like he goes, "What's so wrong about wanting your country to have a heart?"
Yeah.
And it's kind of great because the next panel over is like Viva is a panel of Vivi being shocked but also like inspired by him. So you have this loop of he was inspired by her and now he's doing the same.
That's
Oh
really
man,
good.
that
And
is so good.
another thing is we're getting to like a more regal part of One Piece where there's kings and kingdoms.
Yeah, and there's like a
And
world government.
and world
Yeah.
government is being introduced. Yeah, I think world government is really formally introduced this
Yeah,
arc.
there was a flashback to the flashback because that's how Vivi and Dalton run
Mhm.
into each other. Is at the world, the Reverie, I think.
Yeah, it's the Reverie, but also Wapple brings it up, and like you're getting this concept of like, what is a good king, what is a bad king. A pirate doesn't care about either because he's a fucking pirate, and like you're really setting these seeds that are very important to One Piece's overall storytelling.
Yeah,
And just to back it up a bit, the idea of healing your country through cherry blossoms is so abstract.
in Japanese.
But like, I guess so. But like, it's kind of so beautiful that Hirulek is trying to heal the country by healing their hearts by just showing them a miracle, cherry blossoms in the snow. That is such like a quack doctor, but like poetic goal to have.
It really is poetic because that's what Dalton agrees. That's what this country needs. He's like,
hard.
this country is sick, and it's not necessarily physically sick.
It needs
and
hope,
Hirulek,
you
that's
know?
what they need.
Yeah. Ah.
And man, we really have been introducing a lot. Pretty much every arc for the past while has been introducing a lot more elements of this world, like different technologies and governments and countries. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Oda juggles all this. I have faith that he can because I think Oda can pull off just about anything.
No one can world build at even the only person that can world build at Oda's level is the Attack on Titan guy, because like they're on other levels.
So I'm interested to see how he juggles all this going forward, since I'm still relatively early in the story, but I think he'll do fine at it.
In my personal opinion, I think that really shines post this saga.
Yeah. You've reached a huge point in One Piece, which I'm excited about. But we should talk about Wapple's finale here.
Yes.
Man, I'm just gonna say the Gum Gum Bazooka that caps off this fight. Holy shit! Like,
Fucking launches this guy.
And
Oh my
it's a great closure too, because that's how this whole arc started, basically.
Yeah, with Luffy bazookaing Wapple off the ship.
sea.
Yeah. It's like poetry, it rhymes.
and he Team Rocket blasts off again into the horizon.
Into a cover arc.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I like how the last thing he sees is also the flag, and he's trying to bribe Luffy, and like this flag is in front of you and you don't understand what it really means, and you're still trying to weasel your way out of here.
Yeah, and so after Wapple's defeated, the only thing left to do really is well, not the only thing left to do. The big thing that we know is coming next is, okay, they have to convince Chopper to join the Straw Hats, like, because I mean clearly it's going to happen at this point.
Mhm.
So it really does take them some time to get Chopper to join, and I think it was really hard on Chopper because as soon as the fight's over, and these people make it to the top of the mountain, you have people calling him a monster again, which that's like the core of this trauma that he's had his whole life, is that people see him as a monster. He doesn't belong anywhere, and I think that really hurt him. So when Luffy says, hey, let's be pirates, he's like, no, I can't, I'm a monster, I don't belong with you. And it's kind of up to Luffy to convince him that he does belong.
He just does it by telling you to shut up.
Yeah, and it's so great because we always talk about the emotional mastermind that is Luffy. And Luffy just insists, like, no, shut up and come with us. And Zoro's like, yeah, you think that's going to work? Yeah, that's going to change his mind. But it totally did. Like, Luffy always knows what people need, and Chopper just needed that insistence. Like, yes, you do belong. Like,
you're a monster, but you're our friend. Like, we don't care.
Yeah, and it just worked so well. And so we also kind of tie off ends with all these other characters where Chopper has to say goodbye to Old Lady Doctor, which is her real name. And she at first she seems kind of cruel to him, but we later learn that she knew she was going to be saying goodbye and he was going to be going with the Straw Hats. She just can't do
Sad goodbyes.
she can't do sad goodbyes.
Very Zeph-like, you know, how
Yeah.
Zeph forces Sanji to leave. I love that kind of shit. Always easy way to get to me.
Yeah, and I
Where's
also
Kelly in that?
appreciate how she. I appreciate how she kind of sends off Nami without actually sending her off, because she also subscribes to that whole code where she can't let someone go until they finished her treatment. But she kind of creates a loophole for herself where she's like, I'm gonna leave the room. My coat's over there. There's no guards. Promise me you won't leave. So she didn't technically let Nami go, but
Yeah,
she
no.
allowed Nami to go. And I just think it's fun that she didn't break her code while also letting them do what she knows needed to be done.
Just very true to her character. Just really good, consistent character writing.
Yeah. And man, they kind of start taking off, and we get a really interesting moment here where I'm trying to find.
Well, just real quick, the panel of them like as like a sleigh through the night, just gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And then you get Kureha looking out kind of sadly, like without showing too much emotion, that she starts crying a little bit.
Yeah, and they want to send them off with cannon fire, and they put in Hiruluk's powder that he finally developed. And we get the rose-colored snow. We get the cherry blossom-colored snow.
Yeah.
And God, it's beautiful. And this is the moment when this kingdom's hearts are healed. Wapple's gone, and they can rebuild. And there's one last little moment that we need to talk about, and it's clearly something that is meant to draw your attention. And I can't find the particular page, but I remember what was going on.
Is it chapter 154 by any chance?
No, I got to chapter 54, but I hadn't started it.
Damn it!
Damn it!
Somebody mentioned Gold Roger.
That's on 154.
Okay, yeah, actually, you know what? I did read 154. 155 is where I saw
It also has a person named Ace.
Yeah, and this is a name that I've heard a lot before, and I think I had maybe seen him in a jump game, and I think he has something to do with fire, but I'm not sure.
He's in J-Stars. Yeah.
He's really interesting looking. At first, I was like, before he said his name, I was like, no, that's not Shanks, that's not him. And then I was like, I don't know. So, but I don't know. Whoever he is, I know he's important just because I've gleaned stuff from just One Piece
Media.
existing. I don't know if he's good or bad, how important he is to the story, but I'm sure I'll find
Important
out.
character.
And then shortly after we see him, Dalton and Old Lady Doctor, God rest her soul, they he's like, have you ever heard of? No,
Gold
she
Roger.
says to him, have you ever heard of Gold D. Roger? And I think this is purposefully meant to catch you off guard for a moment, because you've always seen it as Gold Roger, and you kind of have to wonder for a second, like, she's talking about Gold Roger, right? Or is this someone different? And he's like, oh, no, you mean Gold Roger. And she's like, oh, that's what he's called now.
Yeah, that's how he goes by these days.
So she she's been around the block. She's seen stuff, and obviously I can't know where this goes. I can only speculate things. I think there's a very clear, and I don't know, I might seem like a fool. I think it's very clear that him having a D initial is supposed to jump out at you, especially considering our main character also has this D initial and he wants to be king of the pirates.
Well, don't forget that they use this phrasing, the will of D lives on.
Yeah, so this is something big, and I don't know if it's just like a fate thing where this new king of the pirates is also going to have a D in his middle name. I can't know where this goes, but whatever it is, it's going to be interesting.
We're getting into some deep shit, but the most important part of this chapter is the chopstick gag.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah. So I imagine me and Joe doing this chopstick gag whenever a new One Piece comes out. It is the epitome of fun.
and man, I just love this panel of Chopper crying with his chopsticks and saying this is the most fun I've ever had because having
Oh
having seen him at his lowest points, you just wanted this for him so bad, and we got it, and it's the perfect way to conclude this
God,
arc.
that is a really good panel. Oh my God,
Yeah, I
One
love
Piece is so good.
it. And then we see Bon Clay, who
Holy shit!
Bon Clay and Mr. Crocodile, like we are setting up for like the climax of this whole thing we've been
Saga.
building up to on
Saga.
our way to Alabasta and Baroque Works. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah. Most
Bradley.
most mangas, this would be their climactic like ending, basically, where like they start going to the end of their runs.
Yeah, like a lot has been building up to here, and it's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, Bradley's gonna read Alabasta, Joe. Can you
So,
believe
yeah.
we live in this timeline?
Yeah. So Bradley, just word of warning going forward. Alabasta is
4 volumes, I believe.
Yeah.
very long.
So we're gonna split it in 2. I'm probably gonna try to do 2 volumes.
2-2. That sounds like a really good call.
Yeah. I don't know where they end, but yeah.
Also, the back of this volume has ads for all the Shonen Jump stuff, like they usually do. So everyone, go read. What do they have in here? Everyone, go read Tegami Bachi. Is that how you pronounce this?
Oh, the classic.
There's an ad for one thing that's always in these One Piece volumes where it's like the best lawyers in the world all go to this elementary school and they settle playground disputes in a court of law.
That's right up my alley. Wait, hold up.
No, I saw that and I was like, I bet Willer loves this.
Oh, I've never heard of it. Is it Detective Conan or something?
It's called School Judgment.
Yo.
In elementary, there's only one way to settle a dispute in a court of law.
Wait, hold up. School
All
Judgment is... No, I'm thinking of Hell Warden Higuma. Never mind.
All quarrels bypass the teachers and are settled by some of the best lawyers in the country, who also happen to be elementary school students.
Stop. Oh, shit, it's on Viz. Let's fucking go.
Also, it's by the creators of Death Note.
Oh, let's fucking go.
So, everyone, this is now a School Judgment podcast.
I just want to end this by saying Bradley Bon Clay is the fucking best. I can't wait.
Slaps, man.
I really like his design and his ship.
Imagine it be me, 10-year-old Willer. You only know the dubbed One Piece. You buy a video game. You unlock a character. You only know like up to Kuro and Krieg, but you're playing anyways. You buy a fucking video game. You see that monstrosity as a 10-year-old boy. You start to feel things about yourself.
No.
That you can't ever be as cool as he can.
Oh, that's what you feel. Okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
So yeah, we're getting into Alabasta, man, the big one.
Stay tuned.
Stay-
This is a turning point for sure, because this is like after Alabasta is essentially like when the 4Kids anime stopped for the.
Well, it's also when One Piece starts for the 5th time.
Yeah, but this is like for a lot of people, like Alabasta is like the point past that unknown territory in terms of when they read, because you've only been built up for Crocodile the entire time. That
Bradley, what was your Drum Island ranking?
Oh yes, this is important.
Drum Island ranking, man, like before Chopper's whole existence, I was gonna rank it a little bit lower because I was like, it kind of felt like intermediary, and like Wapple is really fun to watch fight as a villain, as a character. I was like,
Wapple's
whatever.
the worst villain so far, in my opinion.
But man, like Chopper's whole like backstory and conclusion here, like 4 out of 5 at least. Like I really enjoyed it.
Damn. Okay. What about Luffy climbing that mountain though? You can't disgrace that.
Oh, that shit was so good.
Man, me and Joe got blown the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh wait, hold on. Am I doing this right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we gave it the same score. All right.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure I actually recorded it in the right spot. I thought I put it in a little garden spot.
Hey, so what are we doing here? There's one last segment to this podcast.
Yeah, we had a free slot, and I thought we would. And I just kind of realized some tradition we had. If you don't mind me talking, Willer, for a hot minute. But basically, I want to say like every month, maybe we skip a month depending on how life is going. But we make a trip to Austin, and we always do two
It's
things.
not
We
every month. It's like 3 times a year at this rate.
maybe yeah, but we make a trip to Austin and we do karaoke. But we also go to a place called Pinballz, which is a huge arcade in Austin, and it has a bunch of games, and we have a great time. And I was talking to someone about this earlier, but to me, like arcades are like the most social form of video game entertainment.
Of course.
Um, and like I grew up always like adoring arcades. Like I love them. I love the lights. I love the idea of going in and like trying to get as far as you can in the video game that scams you out of your money. But I just wanted to open the floor about what y'all's personal opinions and like what y'all's like favorite games we've played at Pinballz or wherever in life in terms of arcades.
I want to step back and say my arcade stories. I
Yeah.
grew up in barcades, basically,
Mm-hmm.
where a young 4 or 5 year old Willer would go with his dad, where he would play soccer at an indoor court that had a bar in like a little arcade area. And I'd raise hell and I'd go pee on people and they would get mad at me and like
Yeah.
Bradley knows I don't like this
Oh, I
kind
know.
of I don't like this kind of game. And yeah, like I would play arcade games there. There was a bar slash arcade right next to my house growing up, and we were friends with the owner, so I was also always there. After playing soccer, you'd go there and play fighting games and shit, while everyone was getting drunk. It was great times. So I've always had a fondness, and it's a shame because it's the dying art. Like there's not many arcades left to where Dave and Buster's and main events are like the most common arcades, but then you get Pinballz, which is like, okay, we're gonna take this Dave and Buster's formula, but we're gonna take it to the next level. It's going to be bigger and better, and you're gonna get to become a robot and pose with your waifu, and it's just great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Pinballz because Pinballz to me like really is like accentuates like you as a kid going to Chuck E. Cheese, which you always wanted to do, basically, but then as an adult and throw in alcohol.
Yeah,
So, and it's basically judgment free in terms of what you're doing there.
good drinks too at good prices over there.
Yeah, yeah. But Bradley, you have any fun arcade stories before I go into my personal favorite games?
I hadn't been to. I was never. I didn't really have the opportunity to go to arcades a lot when I was little. Most of my arcading has been as an adult with you guys, and man, arcade's fun.
They're rare in Texas, you know. So like
Yeah.
growing up here, I never like when we were kids in the Texas area, they didn't really do arcades anymore. They came back recently because we're all nerds and we're willing to pay for alcohol and games
Yeah.
and laser tag and shit
And go-karts.
and go karts.
Fucking go-karts, man. But yeah, but in terms for like when I grew up, there was always one game that every time I saw this game, I was just like, this is a great arcade. It literally just solidified the arcade for me, wherever it was, and it was the original Star Wars trilogy game, arcade game. And that game like is basically like a 10-year-old's dream when they love Star Wars. If you don't know what the game is, it's a rail shooter where like you have like you just sit there and you're just moving through, but you have like a stick and you aim and you shoot things as they come onto the screen. But like the game picks out very choice scenes in each movie. Like the first level is basically you blowing up the Death Star, and the next one is
starting strong.
yeah, you blow up the Death Star. The next one is the Battle of Hoth, and that one's like longer and bigger because not only are you like going around the AT-ATs and shooting things up, you end up into the base. You have to like blast your way out of it to get to the Millennium Falcon. And then between that level and the level after that, you get the bonus level where you fight Boba Fett as Luke Skywalker with his lightsaber. So you're just like,
good. They got some use out of Boba Fett.
yeah, so you're like sitting there, and you deflect him, and because deflect his like laser blast as he's flying around, and because he's flying around, you can't like just go up and hit him. You have to like deflect the blast at certain angles when they show you to hit them back at him, and it's a really fun boss battle.
That sounds
And
like
then
that sounds like pretty intense for that time period. Honestly,
Yeah, it's hard. And then after that, you end up on indoor, and you're doing like the speeder scene in that movie, followed up by you shooting your way to the shield base and bullying and fighting an ATSC, the small little chicken walkers, which then leads into the best part of that game, which is you have a lightsaber duel with Darth Vader.
Is this a first person or third person?
It's a first person game.
How do you? Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, it's at Pinballz. Like I went there and played it last time we were there.
Oh shit! Okay, I need to check it out next time.
Yeah, like it's my favorite game. I go and play it every time we go there.
For me as a kid, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, that was the shit. I would be bewildered at that. And then I'd play Mortal Kombat with my mom and my brother, and they would kick my fucking ass, and I'd be like, "It's only because you guys are big." I would massacre them in any fighting game these days. I could vaporize them with my thoughts.
I think it's funny that your mom beat you at a fighting game.
She can't anymore.
She can't anymore.
She's the real mother now. Bradley, what are your favorites that you've played recently at Pinballz? Like, of course, we got to talk. This is our chance to talk about Killer Queen, right? Like,
I was gonna say, like, Killer Queen is like that is just the best arcade game to me.
I feel like 2 times ago we didn't get to play much, but I felt like this time we got some good rounds in.
Man, like, just the entire concept and design of the game is so good, and nothing beats just like talking shit to the people on the other side of the
yeah.
And I will hold that this time they started shit talking. They were like cheering after killing us once, and that prompted me to get a little mean. Okay, I just want to say.
Shit talking is well and good so long as you're respectful afterwards.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, we're cool. We're cool. The way Killer Queen works, if anyone listening doesn't know, because there's not that many machines out in the world, you pay one payment of $2 for 10 people to play, and you're 5v5. You can also play with AI if you don't have all 10 people. But this means that you can find a group of people to go against and just get in rounds. And it's such a popular machine that there's always people hovering around, just waiting for the chance to swoop in. And you're controlling these characters in like a side-scrolling platformer combat game where you have a queen that can fly, and she can kill the other queen 3 times, or you guys can collect enough berries, which is like you pick up a berry and you bring it to your base, or you can ride this really slow snail to one of the ends of like a track. So there's 3 win conditions, and they're so well designed to where you can just pivot on the fly, and you have to stay on top of the game. It's coming out on the Switch as well if you guys want to play at home. I have no idea what's in that version though.
Dude, Killer Queen Black, new maps, new units, new, like, there's like weapons and shit. Like, oh my god.
New units and weapons is huge, actually.
It is so cool.
But
and the graphics.
Killer Queen on Switch has no appeal to me. Because to me, what makes Killer Queen so special is because it was a game that took what was the best part of an arcade, which is the social aspect of it, as you're all gathered around an arcade cabinet playing the same game, and there's the person next to you you're playing against, and just being able to sit there and be visibly in that space with that person, to me, is a huge part of what makes arcades so unique, and really emphasizes like what more arcade games need to be, is providing an electronic entertainment that you could only do face to face.
Now hear me out though. You, me, and the Switch boys and some beers and just playing on Switch, still fun. It's not. You're right. It's not as fun.
Right.
Yeah, like I think at home Killer Queen is definitely not the superior version, but considering how far apart we all live, I think it'll be good in the meantime.
It's still a fun version. And here's the cool thing about Killer Queen as well. We often go with like inexperienced people who like they might not play games very much, so they might not know how to play very much. Very casual gamers, you might say. But Killer Queen is so easy to control, and it's so easy to explain, and there's 5 of you. So you can always carry the load, and it's really easy to pick up, and people immediately get into it because they immediately figure out how to play.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that game has so many different ways to play. Like your team could be the economic kind of route team where all it focuses on is gathering berries.
Yeah.
Or it could be the combat oriented team where everyone's a warrior and tries to kill everything. Or it's like the sneaky team that tries to get that fucking snail into the goal.
Oh man, I was a very good queen last time. Long live.
Yeah.
Other good pinball games. I mean, there's just so much. Like, pinball's the kind of place you go. Like, they have mini bowling. They got
Mini bowling
go
does slap.
karts. They got all sorts of arcade and pinball machines. Every time I go, I will just play some random stuff, just a couple of them. Have a completely different experience than the other time. Just so many
Yeah.
ways to mix and match your little credits.
For me, the biggest thing that I love about pinball is because it's something that not a lot of arcades do anymore because they're so expensive, is the pinball machines.
Oh yeah, they're really fun.
I love pinball machines, like especially older ones, because newer ones rely more on like digital technology and like screens. But like you get these old ones, and they're dioramas of these like movies or TV series
And they're
or
super well
magazines.
made.
Yeah, and like it's so great because you can look into these pinball machines, you can see the story that they're trying to tell through this pinball machine, and you kind of like it's to
There's
me
an
it makes
art
me
to
so
it.
giddy. Yes. But I love looking at them and I love seeing what they've chosen to represent within their pinball machines as like a model or a ramp or a bumper and what they how that translated to from the screen or whatever into a pinball machine.
Bradley, have you played the pinball machines at Pinballs?
I think I've only played the Shrek one just because for the memes.
There's
Yeah.
stories involved. Yeah. Okay. Next time you should try them out. They're really good.
Yeah.
It is annoying because you have to go get coins, but
But coins can be used on all the other machines, which is really good.
man, arcade's really fun. I can't wait till we go in 2 weeks. Actually,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do a segment over karaoke because I am extremely passionate about karaoke. But that's a fight for another
I think
day.
we all have. Like we had like it's gone into our routine. But
Yeah.
like next week's
And-
gonna be great because we're gonna have an extended pinball stay rather than our usual 2 hours.
Yeah,
So we're gonna really be there and see everything. I feel.
Bradley, why
Hey.
don't you free our souls so I
All
can
right.
turn on my AC?
Hypothetical situation right here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Take
So,
that.
look, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the McDonald's drive-thru, right? And you
Yeah.
order whatever the hell people order at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you get to the window and the drive-thru guy holds out a box and you're like, this is not, I didn't order a box. And he opens it up and there's 3 fruits in there, okay?
Okay.
And he says, you have to choose one of these fruits. And they're all labeled. One of them says it's the pom-pom fruit. One of them says it's the tap-tap fruit.
Ooh.
And the other one says it's the knock-knock fruit.
Ooh, these are fucking good.
You have to pick one. Which and I'll reveal what it does after you pick it.
Okay, you're gonna tell me what it does, but I'm gonna tell you what it should actually do as a One Piece expert.
Okay.
But
Pom pom, tap tap, or knock knock.
I'm gonna take the knock knock fruit, but the
No,
pom pom fruit.
brother, that was the one I was gonna take.
Fine. I'll take the pom pom fruit. You take the knock
No,
knock.
no,
fruit.
you take the knock knock fruit. You're in the driver's seat here. I'm the.
No, you
passenger.
drive. You have the nicer car, so you drive.
God
That's how we
damn
do
it.
it.
Why am I driving now? All right, I'll take the knock knock fruit.
Nice. I get the pom pom fruit,
Shit,
which
that was
leaves
the only
Bradley.
one that I didn't know what it would do.
Wait, what?
I thought of what the other two would do. I didn't think of what the knock knock fruit would do, so we have to improvise here.
Bradley, you get the
Wait.
tap tap fruit, so why don't you lead us with what you get?
Yeah.
Okay. Tap tap fruit is you tap on things and it kind of works for any repeated action, but the more you do it in a row, the stronger it gets. So I'm tapping on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
It starts out tapping like normal strength, but the more I tap, the stronger it gets, and eventually it's just like total earthquakes, earth shattering. I can go ball and I go up to my opponent and I'm just like tapping him, and at first he's like, oh, this is stupid. Oh wait, that tickles. Oh wait, that fucking hurts. Ow, I'm dying.
Stop. So we're still talking about JoJo's Part 5 of Craftwork.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Very nice.
So
Pom
who's
pom
getting
fruit for me.
you're getting pom pom?
Yeah. Also, what
So-
kind of man do you become? Because whenever you eat a fruit, you become a blank man. So you become a tap man.
Yeah, sure, I'm tap man. You become I don't know. I'll tell you what it does and then you tell me.
Okay.
So you can get other willers that split off of you.
Ooh.
And you can all do acrobatic moves, much like cheerleaders would be able to. You can make pyramids and stuff like that. And you do coordinated attacks on your enemy. And your ultimate move is that you make a bunch of cheerleader willers come out, and you all like link arms and legs, and you make like a mech of like a giant mech of cheerleader willers.
Wow, you're who spoiled you on One Piece shit. That's really cool. I feel like they would describe that as like, I'm a cheering squad human or something in One Piece.
Cheer human.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not the name of the fruit.
Or cheer
You know
human.
how Mr. Five describes himself as human dynamite because he has the boom boom fruit. It's like that. I would think that it's a fruit that lets me cheer my opponents on like a cheerleader.
Hey.
So I'd have to like do cheer things to pump up my crew. But I like yours as well.
And then knock knock fruit. Joe carries around a door in each hand, like a sized door. And obviously he hits people with them. He shields with them. But what he can do is he can slam the door into the ground. And his opponent, obviously, like the door will be between him and his opponent. And if the opponent runs to the other side, Joe won't be there. In order to find Joe again, he has to knock on the door.
Wow.
But whenever the door opens, there's going to be like something dangerous on the other side, like maybe a tiger jumps out, or it leads to a totally different place. I don't know.
No comment.
Yeah.
No comment. Anyways, very good fruits.
Oh no, I spoiled the end of One Piece.
Very cool fruits. That was a very good question, Bradley. You're getting better.
There you go. We're strong.
All right, let's
I
sign
still
off.
like the Sasquatch one.
The what now?
The Sasquatch one.
What?
Like that's been Sasquatch.
I like
Oh,
It's
that was a wild one. All right.
This has been the Roundabout cast with me and no one else. Bye bye.
Bye bye. I mean, I'm not here.